What's up, everybody? I look crazy because it's pretty much the start of summer here in Florida and it's pretty hot out here on the boat today. Now, behind me, what I'm going to be doing is prepping the settees and the cabinets in the salon for paint. This is our boat now.
Oh my god.
As you can see, I've kind of cleared everything out here and gotten it ready for some fairing compound and some epoxy sealing. And there's the epoxy right there. So these cabinets, these are just raw wood right here. And I'm going to be sealing them as well as filling in holes like over here with some fairing compound. Just getting this all nice and ready so that I can do a bit of sanding once all that's dry and then start applying some paint. Now once all the epoxy and the fairing compound's dry, I'm going to go ahead and sand everything and then we'll be applying this paint right here. This is the same paint that I used on the cabinet doors. I think in the last DIY video I did. We're going to be applying it to the new cabinet doors in here as well as the supports and the fiberglass liner. So it should all match and look nice and bright and white. I'm going to be applying the paint which is currently on these cabinet doors right here, on the fiberglass here, on these doors, fiberglass here, on these doors, the supports. So all of this right here is going to be all the same white color, and I'm going to be doing it on that bulkhead here, this bulkhead here. So basically just this whole area is going to be white very soon. I'm also going to be doing the very same thing on the port side here, except not painting that, obviously. But I will be painting this side. It's definitely pretty hot. However, the breeze is nice and it's not too bad in here out of the sun. We've got a wind scoop going, so I've got some airflow going through the boat, and we've also got a fan blowing right next to me. So you guys can see the wind scoop over there. It's kind of funneling a bunch of air down into the forward hatch, and then it just kind of comes out through the companionway and just keeps a nice light breeze of air going through the boat at all times. Alrighty, enough rambling on. Let's get to what you're all here for, and it's not these beautiful locks, it is boat DIY. Let's do it. I've got a little bit of this 205 fast hardener that I still need to use up, and although it's pretty hot in here, I think it's going to be okay for using it to coat here because I'm going to be putting it in such a thin layer. So I'm just going to mix it up in small quantities and then use it to coat these, and it should dry pretty quickly. Alright, so all of the bare wood now has been epoxy coated, so it is technically waterproof, water resistant, you know, whatever. Better than before. The last thing I need to do is put fairing compound on areas like this, where there's a gap, and fill some holes like there. There's also a little chip in the wood up there. Basically, I'm just prepping the surface for paint. I'm going to fill in all those holes so that when I go back and sand everything down, it's going to be all smooth. You shouldn't be able to tell the difference between this and that right there. Should look pretty good. So the reason I went ahead and epoxy coated all the bare wood is just because when you're on a boat, you pretty much want everything to be waterproof or as water resistant as possible. Just the paint, it would have lasted for a little while, but with the epoxy and then the paint on top, it's gonna last even longer. I don't think I'm gonna get any paint done today, but I'm at least gonna get the fairing compound on the areas that I wanna get it on. Then maybe we'll be able to do some sanding later. If not, then it's gonna happen tomorrow. We'll sand and then paint tomorrow. But either way, it's gonna start looking good in here pretty soon. I used the fast hardener for the coating of the wood because I knew that I was gonna be spreading it in a thin layer and I was gonna have enough working time with the fast hardener and it's gonna be okay. And it's gonna help it cure a little quicker in that thin layer. Now, I'm using the slow hardener for the fairing because I need a little bit more work time, and the fairing compound is going to be a bit thicker, so it'll tend to cure quicker than even probably this because it's going to be gooped up on itself. So we'll see how it goes. The thing about epoxy is it's like the opposite of paint. Paint will dry fast in a thin layer, but epoxy will dry slow in a thin layer. Well, paint will dry slow if it's too thick, or it won't dry at all if there's too much of it. Epoxy will actually heat up and cure quicker, and you'll have problems because it'll get so hot that it'll bubble or whatever, so you can't keep it like in the cup for too long in certain temperatures. Now this is additive that will turn the epoxy into fairing compound, which fairing compound will just be thick and easy to sand once it's dry. This particular fairing compound I actually got from US Composites. It's not a West System fairing compound. I use it pretty much every time I fair with West System epoxy, and it seems to work just fine. So I got like a peanut butter like consistency. I'm gonna put it on the seams first and then we'll go from there. I should be using like a trowel or something, but I don't have one. Alright guys, so I got nice globs of fairing compound on the areas that I wanted to fair. And hopefully all of this dries by tonight and I can start sanding tonight. However, I will definitely start sanding in the morning if it's not dry tonight. And this side is done as well. So I'm back on the boat and the epoxy's still kind of soft, not quite dry yet. So, as you can see, I'm dressed to go catch some dinner. So let's go see if we can't spear some fish. What's up everybody? So it's the next day, and obviously yesterday fishing was kind of a bust. The visibility wasn't very good. I didn't see really anything big enough to shoot. You win some, you lose some. But today I'm going to be doing some sanding in the main salon here, then hopefully we can get to paint. So all of the epoxy and the fairing compound is nice and dry. It's ready to sand. I've got two tools here that I'm going to use to sand. The one is just a Bosch random orbit sander that I'm going to use in conjunction with my vacuum, as well as this right here. It's a little mini belt sander with a belt that's only about a ½ inch wide, just for the detailing and the knockdown of the initial fairing compound in areas like this. And I'm going to use it in conjunction with that vacuum right there as well, and it's going to help a lot with the dust collection. I picked up that little belt sander at Harbor Freight. It was only like 30 or 40 bucks because I just wanted to try out using one. I've never actually used one before, and the name brand ones are pretty pricey, like anywhere between $200 to $300 I think. Maybe a little less, but I think it was worth the Harbor Freight purchase just to see if I like using it for this purpose. Alright, I think that is good. That's real smooth right there. So you can barely feel anything as far as the transition goes. And again, we're not really going for 100% perfection here. And this area is not that big a deal because we're going to be caulking that. And then once we paint it, you shouldn't be able to tell that this piece and this piece are two separate pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and do what I did on that little strut there on every one of those areas and everywhere around where there's some fairing compound. We go ahead and knock everything down and nice and smooth so then I can go back with 220 grit and sand pretty much everything. Let's get to knocking the fairing compound down first. So I removed the doors down below, I removed the temperature gauge, the thermometer over there, removed just other little things, and then over here did the same thing, removed the AC outlet right there, the doors, and everything is ready to get a nice sanding over all the surfaces I'm going to paint. Alright guys, so now everything has either been hit with a power sander or with a little bit of sandpaper by hand. And now I just need to vacuum everything off, give it a nice wipe down, tape everything, start painting. So I got everything taped off, and luckily I had just barely enough tape to get everything taped off, because it would have sucked if I didn't have enough, because running to the store when you're working on a boat at anchor is only a mild inconvenience. But I'm going to be using this primer first. It's Rustoleum Painter's Touch. It's a latex exterior grade primer. And then I'm going to be following that up with the, well, you can't really see it on this one, but Rustoleum Painter's Touch Ultra Cover Gloss, or is it semi-gloss white. Again, it's an exterior grade paint. Not expensive paint. It's the same stuff we use on the cabinet doors, which are sitting right over there. Came out pretty good. It's pretty water resistant. Yeah, it's not too bad. For a cheap paint, it's pretty good. So that's what we're gonna try to do for the rest of the salon area. If it doesn't work out, it can always be redone. So I got the primer on there, and the first layer of any paint or anything always looks so bad, but it's gonna look a lot better once I get a second coat and a third coat and a fourth coat and so on. Good thing about this paint is 2 hours after you apply the primer, you can just go right ahead and apply the top coat. So no sanding or anything like that required. So since I started like in that area back there about 2 hours ago, I'm gonna start there and then go all the way around the same way that I did already once. And by the time I get to the spot I just finished, it should be all pretty good and ready to paint. Alright, so as you can see, it's looking a lot better. This is one coat of gray, that gray primer, and then 2 coats of white on top of that. So I've got to take a break. I'm going to go to land. I've got to pick up Randy from work, and later tonight I'm going to come back out to the boat and I'm going to do 2 more coats probably on everything, and it should look pretty good. It's already starting to look really good, I think, and yeah, I'm happy with it so far. Just got back to the boat. It's like 5:30. It's still pretty hot out, but coats 4 and 5 coming right at you. The heavens just decided to open up. I'd say it's raining a little bit out there. Kind of rocking and rolling all of a sudden too. Oh yeah, working at anchor. I think it calmed down a little, so I'm gonna keep going with the project. I have one leaky port light that will leak onto the paint, so kind of being a little bit risky here, but whatever. Alright guys, so the tape is off and this is what it looks like. 5 coats everywhere, 6 coats on that bulkhead. And it is most definitely not done yet, but I think it looks pretty good so far. What do you guys think? Not bad for a Home Depot paint job. Keep in mind, places like this are gonna get caulked, places like that down there are gonna get trimmed, so there's still a lot of finish work to be done. But I think it's looking pretty good so far. Part of the reason I went with a Home Depot paint and not a marine paint for the interior of this boat is that I found that exterior grade paints from your local hardware store work just fine on the interior of a boat. There's a few trade-offs. One being the fact that they're probably not as hard as a marine coating, so you're going to be able to scratch them easier. And 2, you're probably not going to be able to get a crazy smooth finish just like you would on more of a topside paint. The water-based Home Depot paints, they don't really level out as well, so you're gonna have just a little bit of a texture. I really like this paint because you really can't even tell that there's a texture there. Now the benefits of using a paint like this, and the reason why we went with a paint like this, is first of all cost. Obviously it's a lot cheaper to use a Home Depot paint than a marine coating, and secondly it's just easy. Not only is it easy to apply, it's also easy to maintain. So if you ever wanted to recoat it, or let's say you do put a ding in it or something like that, or if you want to do some touch-ups and everything, it's as simple as just sanding a little bit. You might not even need to sand, and just touching up that spot. It'll look just fine. I also think the transition between the fiberglass liner here and the plywood that I installed came out pretty good. You can barely tell, or if at all, that there's a seam there. I think it looks pretty good. So I kind of want to get you guys close to the finish of the paint. So I don't know if you can see the little texture that I'm talking about, but there is just a very, very slight stipple and it doesn't bother me in the least bit. I think it looks great. I think it looks just fine. That's going to be it for this week's video, guys. I apologize for being a little late on getting this one out, but as always, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and be sure to ring that bell so you can see each and every video we upload. See you guys.
I've got it right and I got it wrong, but I learned my lesson hanging on. Come sit here with me by the fire and let it go.